Hello folks, in the most recent edition of the Crable letter, I have some notes on the back about CDPs, and I thought I'd just take a moment to discuss CDPs because that's a lot of the work that I do for publishers. I help publishers evaluate CDPs. A CDP, or a customer data platform, is packaged software that creates a persistent, unified customer database that is accessible to other systems. That's a definition from the CDP Institute, and it's pretty decent. Now, a lot of analyses of customer data platforms take this general form. They list all the functions that CDPs have or are expected to have, and then they rank various CDPs on how well they do those functions in general. I suppose for an abstract sort of analysis, that's about as good as you can do, but I don't think that information is very helpful for any particular company. The reason is, if you're evaluating CDP options, you don't really care what they're supposed to do in the abstract or what they do for other people. You care if they solve your problems. That is, if they address your use cases. It doesn't matter how well, just for example, how well a CDP generates reports in some broad sense. What matters is if they can get the reports you need to collect the data that you need in the format that you need. But that raises a big problem for the company that's considering a CDP. How do you whittle down this list? Because there are lots of CDPs out there, and you can't afford to investigate each one of them with the diligence required. So here's a practical path forward. Start with a very detailed list of use cases. Explain exactly what you want to be able to do, what data sources will be required, and how that data will have to be processed. What other services will be involved, what activations will occur, what reports need to be generated. The more time you spend on your use cases, the better this process will work. Now, also explain your niche. I work with publishers, and the bare fact that a CDP has worked with publishers is not enough. There are all different sorts of publishers out there, and they have different business models with different needs. So you're going to want to ask a prospective CDP if they have any clients similar to you. Obviously, you're going to have to set reasonable budget goals. I know everybody likes to play games with prices, but I believe transparency is the best strategy. You can negotiate things, but I think it's better to just be fairly upfront about what you're willing to pay. Put these things in a relatively short request for information and send it out to a bunch of CDPs. Now, how do you know which bunch of CDPs? You're going to have to do a little bit of research in that huge list of CDPs and whittle it down somewhat. Take maybe the top ranked 20 or ask some friends or ask me to find out which are the ones you should probably focus on. Now, 20 might be manageable at this first stage. And at this first stage, you're just trying to pre-qualify or pre-disqualify people. To some extent, you can sort them by geography, right? If you're in the US and they're mostly in the UK, that's not a good fit. Also, you can sort them by whether they work in your industry. Now, 20, honestly, is somewhat of a big number. I would try to whittle that down to more like 10. You'll have to spend a little bit of time on their websites and watching YouTube videos to figure out how to whittle that down, or you can ask me to do it. While you're waiting on the responses, come up with a grading, so the responses, that is, to the document I just mentioned about your use cases and all that. Come up with a grading system, giving the use cases the biggest part of the score. So what I mean, for example, is you'll list all your use cases and you'll say this is a have to have and this is a nice to have, and then you'll come up with a numerical system for how they do that and how good their response is to your specific use case. Now, this is where the fun starts. You're going to have to evaluate all the responses. Honestly, it's kind of wearisome, but you'll learn a lot in the process about what can and can't be done. You might modify some of your use cases as a result of what you learned during this process, and you might come up with some new ones. As you read through these responses and learn new things, you'll want to change your evaluation criteria, and that's good also because it means you're learning. So realize, because that you're learning along the way, you'll evaluate your 10th RFI response differently than you evaluated your first. One way to handle this mound of documents is to divide up the responses among a few different people. Let everyone have a go at scoring some number of them, then reconvene and reevaluate your grading system. Have one person, like me, I'm independent, read all the responses. Take your revised scoring system, redistribute more of the RFI responses, and do it again. I realize that this sounds like a whole lot of work, but you're talking about a big investment and something that is going to, we hope, drive your company forward. So you do need to take your time and do this right. By the time you get through this stack, you should be able to decide which companies make it to the RFP stage, and that's where you get more precise questions, the kinds of questions that your IT guys are going to want to have about specific things about data, and also questions about money. Now, it's not an easy process, but if you remain focused and you focus on your business requirements and not on generic rankings and that sort of thing, you should be able to make a good decision. And if you need help doing that sort of thing, let me know. That's a lot of what I do. And if you haven't signed up yet, sign up for the Crable letter. It's a once a month 4-page newsletter for publishers that focuses on these kinds of issues, how you can improve your business, ideas about content generation, and a bunch of different things. So thanks for watching and have a good day.